The Legend of the Holy Grail, Part 1, Origins. It all started with a king. Now, which king? Well, that's a little difficult to say. There are several contenders, but we'll get to them in a moment. What's important to understand is that the Grail, or at least the idea of it, predates Christianity by a good few centuries. We're talking about a time when people believed that the earth was flat and when Atlantis was still kicking. Don't take my word for it. Let's go back to the beginning and see how this thing got started. As far back as the 6th century BC, Greeks were telling stories about a magical cauldron that had the power to grant immortality. This cauldron was said to have been used by the sorceress Circe, who was known for her ability to turn men into animals and back again, and by the hero Achilles, who used it to heal his soldiers. But let's fast forward a few centuries to the time of Jesus Christ. There are a few different stories from this time that may have contributed to the legend of the Grail. One of them involves Jesus' lost bloodline. You see, according to some very obscure texts, Jesus actually had a son named Jesus, and that kid had a kid, and then that kid had a kid, and one of them, a guy named Isaac, became the first king of a lost tribe of Israel. Now, according to these same texts, Isaac's bloodline continued for 42 generations until they were finally wiped out by King Titus, the guy responsible for destroying the Jewish Holy Temple. But not before Isaac's daughter, a woman named Helena, managed to escape with one very important artifact, the Holy Grail. She took it to a secret location known only as Avalon, where she hid it away until the time was right. Another story from this time involves a visit from an angel. According to this tale, the angel Gabriel himself visited a man named Joseph of Arimathea and told him that he was destined to become the guardian of the Holy Grail. Joseph was apparently so honored to receive this sacred duty that he immediately cut off his balls. Yeah, that's really in there. Then he took the Grail to Britain and hid it in a cave in Glastonbury, where it remained hidden until it was discovered many years later by none other than King Arthur himself. Now, which king was it exactly that discovered the Grail? Well, believe it or not, there's some debate over this as well. Some believe it was King Arthur, while others believe it was his father, King Uther. Still others say it was Uther's son, Mordred, who stumbled upon the Grail by accident after Arthur kicked the bucket. But if you ask me, it was probably just a case of bad translation. The original stories about the Grail didn't actually refer to any kind of king at all. Instead, the word that was written down was something more like galley slave, which is why I think the earliest stories of the Grail had nothing to do with kings or quests, but were instead about a group of poor saps rowing a boat. For more on this insane theory, stay tuned.